What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Geek Meister Shoots the Shit. I am here with Clyde Beach once more.
Sup, everybody? Clyde Beach here, bringing you all the pop knowledge and pop culture geek fest news and information.
Yeah, well, not all of it because there's so much, and so much of it is so boring. I don't know. Recently, I saw that Black Panther almost beat Hulk in a one-on-one, so that was fun. But everything else is politics and stuff I don't want to touch right now.
Yeah. I feel you, man.
But yeah, man. So you know how it is, guys. You know what we get into here at the Geek Mense Shoot the Shit. One thing that I've been dying to talk to Clyde about for a minute now is: have you seen that Loki episode? We're gonna jump right into this. We're not even gonna waste our time. Intro's done. Let's talk about this Loki episode 3 and 4 just for a second.
Dude, yeah, they're doing the most. They actually hit me with subversions, like being a writer myself, like I was expecting more twists and turns. I think I was over expecting twists and turns, and I think it was fairly simplified. I think there's still room for things to happen. I don't want to talk about the end of the mid credit scene at the end of the last episode. I think it was episode 4, because I had
The
this.
spoiler's out there. Like, if you're on Twitter, the spoiler is just waiting for you to meet you in your face. Like, nobody wasted time spoiling what happened.
Yo, exactly, like on in episode 3, with the whole thing on what was the planet called, Lamentus, that purple planet.
Yeah.
Everything that happened on Lamentus after, because it was suspicious for me the way Sylvie was passed out on the table, waking up with Loki drunk, you know, and
Mm.
I don't know if that's in his character, like just that give up nature, that he wouldn't have a trick up his sleeve. I was convinced that, like in episode 4, they would reveal that Sylvie had actually, or Loki had actually enchanted Sylvie using her own magic against her. Um, there's a concept in writing that's called Chekhov's gun. Chekhov's
Okay, it's
check.
the first time I'm hearing of it.
Sorry.
It's the first time I'm hearing of it.
Yes, Chekhov's gun basically means you don't show a gun in a series, or you don't show a gun in a movie or a show if the gun is not going to be fired, if it doesn't have a purpose. And the fact that at multiple levels they explain how Loki's powers work, but at one point Sylvie actually outlines how she enchants someone, how she has to go into the actual memories um, to extract information. She can impose herself on that memory, but it has to be a real memory that comes from a real place. And my head was going, okay, she's basically teaching Loki how to enchant. And I was convinced. I was convinced that Loki was actually enchanted on Lamentus, and everything that happened after or during the train scene, everything afterwards was an enchantment. But episode 4 proved me wrong, I suppose.
Yeah, no, a lot of people had that theory about how episode 4 was gonna happen. Because I think the other thing with episode 3, I'm gonna be honest, to me, it was a little bit underwhelming because like when you get towards the end, it's kind of them just running around trying to get somewhere, but it feels like it's a long continuous shot. But I'm like, you guys should be getting to this train now.
Yeah,
Like you're both magical beings who know what they're doing. Why are we wasting time? And Loki straight up makes a building reverse back into place. That's another thing
yeah,
about this show. The power scaling is so off.
yeah, exactly,
This is
exactly. Like I was wondering, and it's like even the things with Sylvie, like maybe it's just because One Division set up that sort of precedent where you're expecting the unexpected, where you're trying to unfold every action. Sometimes an action or something that happens is just actually happening in the moment. Um, like I also had this other idea that because in episode 4, Sylvie gets picked up as a variant out of the timeline. Then I was starting to think of things like, okay, if I mapped out the timeline, this Loki or Loki we're following in the show, he's a variant because he jumped with the Tesseract at the point where the Avengers went to grab the Tesseract, right? But that would have created a divergent timeline because if Loki didn't pick up the Tesseract, or the Loki we followed before the series didn't pick up the Tesseract and disappear, he would have ended up back on Asgard in Thor 2, right? And it would have
Yeah,
and it would have led him to leading to his mother's death, right?
yeah,
He led the elves to the dark elves to Asgard, which caused his mother's death in that fight.
yeah,
Um, and by proxy, ended up with him getting exiled and ending up on Sakaar. So that means Ragnarok and all those things wouldn't have happened. But what if that Loki conquered Asgard as he wanted to? Like Thor didn't come back from Sakaar, the junk planet. Loki actually ruled that planet. He took a wife for whoever she was. And what if this Loki is like his daughter? You know, like she's a Loki by proxy of being Sylvie's his daughter. But that adds weird connotations for that romantic vibes we were getting in the last few
well,
episodes.
I think we're way past weird at this stage because the fact that they have it anyway is kind of weird. Like, I'm just saying that's I don't know how you would quantify that relationship.
Yeah, well, look, you can understand from a narcissistic point of view. If I were to meet a female version of myself from an alternate dimension, I'm narcissistic enough to be attracted to her.
I don't know, man. Not me. I mean, I know I'm pretty, but I don't know. I just get on my nerves. Uh,
Yeah,
but
probably.
yeah, but like the other thing that I think episode 4 was better. I think episode 3, like, it wasn't a bad episode, but I just think towards the end they kind of lost the direction of where they were going. And like, everybody was like, there's no way they're going to kill these characters off.
Yeah,
Let's just stop that right there. And then we get to episode 4. First off and foremost, Mobius, why?
yeah, dude. But at least the post credit gives you hope.
Yeah, no, he better be there. He better be there. He
I don't
better
know if
be
this is a
there.
spoiler, but maybe you should jump past this if you
Well,
don't want it
I think
spoiled.
I think the thing is, where this has kind of been a spoiler discussion anyway with these two episodes. But yeah, there's time codes if nobody wants to hear what's going on. So
Yeah.
I'll probably before I throw the episode up, just put a disclaimer that there's time codes. People can jump and then we jump into the episode. I should have done that up top, but you know, we'll figure this out as we go along. But
Oh,
anyway, yeah, you can jump into the spoiler now.
yeah. So at the end, that getting hit with that bomb, like Ella what Ella Loki, alligator Loki, and kid Loki, and classic Loki as well. And there was another dude with what looked like a hammer, a type of
Yeah,
Mjolnir or something.
apparently that's boastful Loki.
Boastful Loki.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard of the character, but it would be dope to see new variations or variants or whatever's
He might
happening.
From the comic books, there was a version of Loki who was worthy of holding Mjolnir.
I
So
remember,
instead
yeah.
of yeah, instead of Thor getting it, like Loki got it. So
But
it
that was
might
called
be
the
that.
wasn't he called the worthy Loki? Like it was like unworthy Thor, worthy Loki type of thing. I think that's what it was called.
So maybe boastful Loki is like a take on that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, in regular mythology, Loki is actually not a bad dude, and Thor really sucks in regular mythology. So it might be a spin on that.
Yeah.
Like that's another thing. Disney lied to us so much. I used to think Zeus was cool until I actually read like stories of Zeus, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, but that's Disney's nature. They take these like it's weird that kids in general, even our generation, we won't ever know the the classic fables as they are told. Like everyone's
Uh,
version of the Little Mermaid is going to be the one with Ariel, and not the true Little Mermaid that felt like she was walking on 1,000 daggers with every step she took,
ah,
and lost her voice and had to live in a cave at the foot of the castle and died, turning into foam when she returned to the sea. People don't know the what do they call the Grimm
the grim
brothers,
tale,
the Grimm tales,
grim
yeah,
tale. Yeah.
versions of the
No,
originals.
if it's anything, I would rather read about the fact that she, manages to live on land and gets a boyfriend, even though that's kind of problematic.
Yeah,
It's much better.
yeah, exactly.
Returning it. Yeah, I'm not trying to be that depressed. We already just lived through a pandemic. Third wave is on the way. I don't need to know that Ariel ends up in a cave dying alone. I'm good.
Yeah.
But coming back to the episode and everything. Episode 4 for me was really good. I really enjoyed episode 4 and what was going on with episode 4. And what's this? I think the only thing that I think they need to do is just spruce up the combat. I know the combat is not the main purpose of like Loki, cause but I'm just saying like some of that choreography was a little bit too slow for me. I was just like, you guys can hurry this up. And there's something that I also want to say. Hunter B15, who I actually really like, the way that they take her out the fight, I was offended. I was like, really? She throws the sword and then one punch and she's out.
just gets pushed to the side.
I was like, I thought they were going to have three of them fighting at the very least. No, she comes and throws a sword and then somebody just punches and knocks her out. And I was like, isn't she like one of the main like hunter people? But anyway,
I get that, but you can also understand that like she's just been through this emotionally traumatic moment, realizing, again, spoilers, realizing that all of them are variants, realizing that she had a life and that she was happy in her life and she was taken out of that life, so if from a perspective like that, if you kind of want to write it out that she wasn't on an A game when she got knocked out, then I suppose it's kind of understandable. Also, she's standing in front of the time guardians, the time masters, or whatever the hell they call, um, just to find out. I knew that was coming. Like I don't know why. But I think that was fairly obvious.
oh
But
yeah,
but also Thingy was out of the Miss Minutes. She's been suspiciously quiet in the last few episodes as well.
I think Miss Minutes is the villain. Everybody is Miss Minutes has been suspect. I think she's the villain. Like if she turns around and if Marvel creates a new villain called Miss Minutes to like go against the Avengers in the timeline, I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah,
And then she kind of clashes with Kang or whatever. Then we get like a triple threat, so it's like villain
yeah.
versus heroes. I think that would be a kind of and in the title that would be nuts.
Are you
Not that it's
feeling?
out of the realm of possibility though.
Yeah, are you feeling Kang the Conqueror though? I know that's the strongest theory.
The question would be like Kang as I know him, because I again like for me when I was reading books, I was more attracted to like the lower level heroes. So I kind of only ran into Kang when he ran into like Spider-Man or Daredevil or
Yeah,
or that type of thing. I did read a lot of Avengers, so I do know what Kang is kind of about. But like it first off, Kang himself is so convoluted because he's either like an Iron Man or he's the son of Reed Richards.
yeah.
I'm
Not the
so
son, is the descendant. He's not a
oh
descendant, an ancestor of Reed Richards.
wait, but then how does he become Iron Man Junior? Because in the Young Avengers book, Iron Lad is
Was a that was a time jump retcon type of, yeah. I actually I'll tell you what, like growing up, I was honestly, like, growing up, to be completely fair, I was a DC kid. So I followed DC comics in, like, more or less as far as you could in a chronological order. You followed series and storylines and plots and things, specifically Superman and Batman. And I was a massive fan of um, 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 the Teen Titans back when Todd North was doing the Teen Titans.
Where did you get your books? Because I'm so curious as to where you got your books.
I'll I was um, um, I was a naughty lad. Um, not all my books were sequestered in amicable means. So, but what I didn't finger, I got through and on the station when I used to travel to primary school and to high school. On back in the days on Cape Town station on the train station, there used to be a CNA, and for some reason they used to keep fairly up to date paperbacks, and they'd let me hang out in the back of the shop and just read their comics. So I'd catch
Oh,
up
that's
on
so
all my
cool.
comic reading and things like that. I also had a very close buddy, Abongile Mbauli, oh Bongi. So back in high school, we were Bongi and Clyde, and he, for some reason, he used to always have this the skinny and have all the new comics and graphic novels, and then you
Just
know,
be careful. You can end up in Zondo like that.
yeah. But with Marvel, I'd catch Marvel bits and pieces of Marvel here and there. Um, but it was hard to keep track with the alternate timelines and variations of books and things like that. But for the most part, you kind of put together the law and the ideal and the idea of things that are happening. But for the most part, in Marvel world, I read one-offs. I do have a couple of graphic novels. I have like the Civil War graphic novels and Extremis from Iron Man and those storylines and things. Um, yeah, but the more convoluted stuff were hard to keep track of, like you say. And I
Well,
can't.
I mean, I collected digitally because I couldn't find like bookstores close to me.
Yeah,
But yeah, with Kang, I tried to keep up with Kang. I even watched Kang in the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon.
yeah,
So I know a lot of him from there, and I know that I still don't know what his deal is. I just know that he messes with time a lot, and that he wants to stop the Avengers from doing certain things. It might be like a Doom situation where he's like, as long as the Avengers exist, there's certain things that are going to happen in the future that I want to prevent. So he goes back in time and ends up becoming like a villain of sorts to the
yeah. I
Avengers.
think
I don't know.
he even formed his own version of the Avengers at one point or something convoluted like that. But don't quote me on that. Like I vaguely remember something like that.
Yeah, I'm just well. Don't quote both of us because honestly I know of Kang the Conqueror. I know that he's a villain for the Avengers, and I know that he messes with time. I don't know why. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
know, I
don't.
know he's also he's like one of those characters that's like Galactus to me. They're like just these the or the Watcher. They're just these big bads that come into the story for some kind of MacGuffin or to drive a story forward. You know?
Well, the thing is with Galactus, it's actually very interesting. So, we're gonna talk a little bit of anime, but you'll see what I mean. Like, if you watch the Dragon Ball Super, I don't like Super at all. I hate it. I hate it. But one character that I really like from Super is Beerus.
Oh yeah,
So Beerus he's the god of destruction. So it's just kind of his function in the universe. So it's not like he has any malice towards anything. It's just that if he has to destroy something, he's
he
supposed to
does it.
destroy it. So Galactus is kind of the same thing where there's the whole backstory with him as to how he became Galactus and all of that stuff. But and also he had a run where he was Galactus the Restorer, not the Destroyer or whatever. So he was going around the universe restoring planets
Okay.
because apparently the universe was out of balance. As I said, cosmic stuff was not my thing,
Yeah,
but
but I think for the future of the Marvel universe or the MCU as it stands right now, I think those power plays are becoming like more and more important. Like I don't know if we touched on it the last time, like the Eternals.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So
Especially the trailer.
yeah, absolutely. So, um, what I'm seeing is that remember all of these things technically just because you have Thanos or we've had Thanos as a villain in the past, it actually ties into the Celestials and the Eternals because the you had the Celestials and then they were the ones that messed with human DNA from what I know in the comics and stuff like that, and that's the reason why um, it's weird because it's kind of like thinking back subconsciously. We've kind of got a little bit of that law in our quasi universe that I work on as well, but um, it's kind of got
I
that
forgot
kind of
about that.
ramifications, that kind of snowballing that the Celestials messed around with DNA on Earth, and out of that DNA you got the Deviants and you got the Eternals, and
Oh, I
you,
see now. I'm
you
making the
understand,
connection in my
and
head
the
real
and
quick.
the dormant gene and the dormant gene that was in some of the humanity that came afterwards thousands of years later, it manifests itself as the X-Men, as the mutants. So
The mutants came from the Eternals.
exactly, like if you actually go deep enough, because I don't know if it was a retcon concept, but they don't come from the Eternals. They come from a level up. They come from the. That's why the Inhumans and the Eternals and the X-Men, they're all connected in some way because they all stem from Celestials. and how
Jeez, I
and and how all of this can tie together is the fact that Thanos' father is eternal. So Thanos and his brother, but Thanos instead of getting an eternal variation gene, he got a deviant gene, and that's why he looks that way. That's why his brother Eros looks normal.
you officially know more than me. Like officially.
and and I have a suspicion that that's where these things. That's why the Eternals maybe poke their head out because it's like we had a deviant on Earth or something like that, and that's I think that's where
I think they're gonna find a lot of angry people saying, "Where were you when he was here?"
exactly. But part of their manifesto was that they would not get involved with human progress anymore because like you've got like characters like the hero I think he was called Gilgamesh, and then you've got Sprite, which we've seen Gilgamesh, we've seen Sprite, we've seen Mercurus or something like that, the
Hey, don't
fast
ask
one.
me, man. I'm learning right now.
Yeah, so you've got all these characters in the Eternals that manifest like these main powers. They can fly. They've got super strength. They can manifest objects out of thin air. I think Angelina's Jolie's characters, that like weaponsmith character. I can't remember her name. But she manipulates matter or light and turns them into these weapons. Um, and how the story goes or how the lore goes is that the Eternals built civilizations. They guided mankind through their growth through the ages. And at one point, they just felt like they had their hands on too much, and then they absconded. And some of the Eternals left and went to other planets and galaxy. Hence Thanos's setting up Titan. Actually, um, you know, the planet of Titan where Thanos is from. What was Thanos' dad's name? He had white hair. I know he had was this character with white hair.
I can look it up just now. I can look it up because she's. I'm just. That is that is. First off and foremost, you know way more than I thought I knew.
But
Jeez, every time I think I'm the biggest nerd I know, I meet somebody who knows more than me, and
no,
I'm
but
like,
I
man.
know, like I said, I catch bits and pieces here and there, but I can't always keep my story straight because there's so much rattling around in my head.
No, the fact that you were able to connect, because I didn't know that I thought the X Men was just a natural evolution. I didn't even know that they were connected to the Celestials, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
because
And
they always in like it's my favorite stories of the X-Men when they're in space and they're dealing with the
yeah,
cosmic stuff. So that I think that's why I enjoyed those stories a bit more, which is very
exactly.
very
Like
cool.
if you look at Peter Quill, in some ways, technically he's an Eternal because his
Yeah, he
parents,
is. 'Cause-
because his parents Star Lord. In a way, he's an Eternal because his parent is a Celestial. His dad is
Yeah,
a
wait.
he,
So is in comics is Peter Quill still the son of Igor the Living Planet?
he's always been the son of royalty. I don't know if he's the son of Ego, but he is a yeah. His dad is a Celestial in the comics, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But that could have been the newer comics that I read because I didn't know much about Star Lord. What I knew about Star Lord and Groot and Rocket Raccoon was what I saw in was it the Avengers TV series? Or was it a Spider-Man? And they showed up in one of the episodes in the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they had like this Nova Corp sort of uniforms on, but they
It
popped
might have
up
been
in one.
Ultimate Spider-Man.
I
It
think
might have
it
been
might have
Ultimate
been a
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man in one of the animated Spider-Man episodes, but yeah, I didn't know much about them, and then the movie came out with these obscure characters, and I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't know
Now,
much.
I've always okay. Just for everybody that's listening, I think we've officially covered everything we're gonna cover about Loki episode 3 and 4 because this is
Sorry,
totally
sir.
a
Yeah,
discussion. Yeah, but talking Eternals, which is what we're gonna be talking anyway. So with what you were saying just now, I always knew about the Guardians of the Galaxy because I was reading their comics,
yeah,
but I just knew them as a space group. The only thing I knew was like once this Peter Quill got abducted from Earth as a kid and got taken in by I think it's the Ravagers, and then he ended up being a space criminal, and that's how he met up with the rest of the crew to form the Guardians of the Galaxy. So that's what I know. And I know that like how they say in the movie, Drax the Destroyer wants to kill Thanos because of 1, 2, 3, 4,
yeah.
and how Gamora is his daughter. I knew the broad strokes of that stuff, and I was reading that stuff. So that's why I knew who they were before the movies came out. But I didn't, and the Ego, the Living Planet was a new one for me because I didn't think his father was Ego, the Living Planet in the
Yeah,
comic book.
because in the comics, I think his dad was someone like Sport. He was an emperor of some planet or something like this, some intergalactic empire. Because I know like Peter Quill was literally like a lord, and part of his mission, like in the comics, was that they wanted him to be a prince again and come and rule the planet, but he didn't like the politics of something like that. I know it was something like that. I can't
Let me
remember
just see if I
exactly.
can find it. Let me just see if I can find it because they're still throwing up Ego the Living Planet because of the MCU.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I don't mean ego. Yeah, in the comics, in the original comics at least, his dad was like yeah, a galactic emperor, like a king or something like
Uh,
that.
Star Lord Dad Marvel Comics. Let me see. I mean, I understand why they made it Ego, which is interesting. Jason. Apparently, is Jason. He's the father. Yeah, he looks like he's an emperor. I might have read this issue. I might have read this issue. Uh, yeah. Oh, his species is Spartoid. So yeah,
Spartoid.
Jason of
Okay.
Spartax. Jason of Spartax. Oh yeah, I think I'm remembering this because I might have read this issue, and then he kind of like he was seeing something shady about the civilization, and he decided to leave or something, which is
Yeah,
made
that
him
I
sick.
remember also something vaguely like that. But what I'm saying with the whole ego thing in the MCU context is since ego was a celestial.
Yeah,
Remember, they bring it up in the MCU. That all
yeah,
ties together. That ties Peter Quill in some ways to almost being a cousin of Thanos in a way, you know?
yeah. Essentially,
Or
it's too bad he didn't keep the powers because if he kept the powers, he would have whooped Thanos.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And so And what if like just in the future now, like what if Loki and the multiverse of madness is leading to the Celestials, and we know the Eternals are coming up. So when the Eternals show up, the Inhumans can show up, and when the Inhumans show up, the X-Men can show up, or mutants can start manifesting in the MCU. Who knows?
You think so? You think they're gonna go with like they're gonna start introducing like the universe and tribunal and all of that stuff as well?
Jeez, imagine the living tribunal. I think that's like already with the timekeepers and Kang the Conqueror. Like it's such complicated storylines. And
Yeah,
the one thing I do know about Kevin Feige is they've got a good way of distilling the information for the general populace. Like if you were really to look at, or even what was his name? The Guardians of the Galaxy dude, the dude who's doing Suicide Squad now.
oh, James Gunn.
James Gunn.
James Gunn.
James Gunn. Like, I love the take on Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was easy enough to grasp and fathom the concept. It was a lot of complicated concepts thrown at you, but distilled and simplified. Even the second one, even with like, my dad is a planet, you know. Um, well, I'm giving us the information. If I was reading that in a comic book, the same like me being confused about Star Lord's comic book heritage or background, it's more complicated to explain than what I've consumed through the videos, through the MCU, the movies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean there is that whole thing of how there's the movie fans and then there's the comic book
Yeah,
fans. So like because the MCU is so big now that it's built up its own lore. That's why it has its own separate wiki and it's like it's an own separate universe from like the main Marvel timeline,
yeah.
which is so I mean, we never know. Maybe we'll get to the day where they actually start doing all of that crazy main Marvel timeline stuff, which is gonna be
I,
so
I
hectic
don't
and
think so. I think you need to have a certain palette, a certain you, like we're comic book nerds, so we are programmed to to take in information like that. I remember I've actually changed a lot, and um, people who know me know this. If a animated superhero movie or a live action superhero movie were to come out, I'd sit there and poke holes in everything because that's not how it happened in the comic. You know, Venom cannot exist. How does Venom exist without Spider-Man? The
I'm the same. I'm
the
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 same.
symbiote the symbiote manifested its main powers because it was fused to Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it's like, why is he shooting tendrils? Why is this? Why that? And I poked those holes, and later on, I think around about the time Smallville came out, I was like, how can Clark and Lex have grown up in the same town? Everyone in the town has seen Clark without glasses on. You know, he's kind of a cool kid. I'd recognize him in the future. Um, but then I learned to kind of like just accept these new shows and think of them as being their own world, their own reality. And I think,
I don't know. Smallville is hard to let go, but like, I think in general, yeah, there's like you have to say comic book logic at some stage because I think
yeah,
even comic books have things that don't make sense. Like there was a panel where Daredevil kicks the Silver Surfer out of a window, and I'm just like, that's not possible.
yeah,
That is
exactly,
not.
exactly. First of all, that dude can phase through objects. How are you gonna kicking someone out of a window? Actually has a name. It's called defenestration.
Yeah. Well, he defenestrated the hell out of the Silver Surfer, the same guy who beat the Hulk one-on-one. And I'm like, Daredevil is a regular man. Because I remember there was I don't know if you saw it, there was a whole comic book controversy with the Black Panther putting Silver Surfer in an armbar. And everybody was like, that's not possible. How can Black Panther do that? And then, like 6 months later, somebody wrote a panel where Daredevil kicks the Silver Surfer out of a window. So I was just like, I mean, with the shows when they take liberties, it's like the comic books take liberties as well. And
Whenever things like
comic book writers get so mad when the fans come and just say, but like I remember Stan Lee released a video that made me laugh where he was just like, who wins the fight? The person I want to win the fight. Stop
exactly,
asking me who wins the fight.
exactly. Look, being a comic book creator myself, I know, like, even panel to panel, I retcon. Oh, ideas get retcon panel to panel. What needs to happen happens. Um, and that's like the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. It's like, I don't know if you want to go into this conversation, if I can just touch on this
Yeah,
for a second, but it's like
yeah, sure, let's do it.
when you're adapting your comic book to screen, right? You've got you've got all these ideas that you've already built up in the comic book, but now you have a fresh take. You have a blank slate. You can hear the characters talking in your head. You can see how they interact and play off each other. But there's almost like shorthand you can do in comics. You can skip moments in the comic. You can leave things up for between the panels. For the reader to extrapolate or um, gauge their own things. But then you get things like you've read Koezi, so you know you've got a character like Koi, right?
Yeah.
We've got a backstory for Koi, and here's a little secret: like his backstory isn't 100% yet. We know more or less what it is, but it's not um, all the kinks. Every single piece of the puzzle isn't exactly there, but we have the bulk of it set out. But as soon as we went to animation, those little missing pieces start jumping out at you. It's like, so, but why is he doing this? Why does he just follow Mohau around? What conversations did they have in the past to make them have this relationship? And then we were like, you know what? Screw it then. Screw it then. Koi is an independent character. He exists on his own. We'll merge him into the story later on.
Oh, okay. So there's gonna be a whole different thing with how he gets introduced in the animated show from how he got introduced in the in
Yeah,
the.
there are a lot of the characters. It's the same like in the comic book. You allude to moments between Kwezi and Zane. Zane in the comic book is Kwezi's best friend. But if you really
Yeah.
read the comic book, he doesn't come across as much of a best friend. You never really see them together much or interacting with each other much. You basically, it will be a call or this or that or that. Um, but from the way the show was developed to show the personality and to show how two characters being in similar circumstances with slightly different backgrounds, but similarities in other ways, how they play off each other became very important. So
Oh,
he
okay.
plays
I mean, for me, when I was reading it, I didn't get this. Like, I got the sense that they were best friends. It's just that Quizzy is now being a superhero, so he doesn't have enough time on the ground. But I
e-
do understand what you're saying.
exactly.
I do
So
understand what you're saying.
playing off the ground, and with the comic book, you can actually move very quickly. Your beats and your pacing can change a lot in a comic book. You can go from 0 to 100 in 16 pages. If you do that same thing in a show, in something where characters need to play off each other, they're gonna have no dynamics. They're gonna have no moments for dialogue. In a comic book, you can cheat. You can have a character flying in a panel that on screen would be 1 second of a character shooting past the screen, but you can have 10 seconds of dialogue in a comic book panel. You could have you could slow a very quick moment down into an instant. I know in anime they often do that as well. I've watched this one show back in my striker days, when we were sort of researching styles for animation and stuff like that, and it was a soccer show called Giant Killers, and I think that was called. It's a soccer anime, a Japanese anime about football, and two characters basically jump into the air at the same time to go for a header. And as the
Yeah.
one character's falling back because he missed the header, they probably have a 2 minute dialogue. in the time it takes him from jumping in the air to slowly falling backwards,
Yeah.
and he's having his whole life like, unfolding all these moments. And if you're smart, you can do things like that, but it does mess with the pacing and the timing and stuff.
Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, no, no. Because yeah, I think that's the thing. Also, is like as a person who's been a Marvel fan and a DC fan for a while, a la mostly Batman and stuff like that. Yeah, when the movies do distill the ideas, because yeah, there's so many ideas. There's so many crazy, like comic books is nuts. To make sense of them, it takes a lot.
Yeah,
So yeah, I definitely think that when it comes to like stuff with like the Eternals and when they cover the Celestials, they are gonna take away a lot of the fat and just trim it down to like the basic things that you need to know, which is actually gonna be very helpful. And that's why I don't get upset at people who are like MCU fans,
yeah.
except for when they say stuff like, oh, you know, Captain America can just destroy Black Panther, and then I'm like, hey,
Eh.
relax, relax. But outside of that, yeah, I definitely do agree. So speaking of Marvel, though, we gotta talk the two newest properties that are coming out. The first one I want to talk to you though. It doesn't have a trailer yet, but it's making some big news, especially because of Loki episode. I think it was episode 4, where Mobius is like, we took in the Kree, we took in other things, and we also took in vampires. Why are the two demigods a headache? So they said vampires. Blade is coming. What are your thoughts on Blade, real quick?
I'm excited to see the MCU take on Blade. Um, I honestly don't think they can. Oh, maybe they can. They'll probably surprise me. Because that's what they do. That's just what the MCU's habit is. But I didn't think you could top the cool of Wesley Snipes. I I don't know. And one of Blade, especially in the comic books, one of Blade's main villains is obviously Morbius, the living vampire. So I don't know if these things are going to connect. Um,
Is it Morbius? Because don't they end up working together at some
they
stage?
they do
Because I think
because he's not like a true vampire. He's a
yeah,
plasma sucker, so he doesn't need to kill people to consume them. Um,
yeah,
but well, let's put it this way: in comic books, Morbius plays a decent or big part of the comic book mythos, and also connected to the Spider-Man mythos. And the reason I bring him up in that context is because from Sony's perspective, there's a Morbius movie coming out as well.
oh yeah, yeah,
And
I
then
saw that.
and then there's the Blade movie coming out as well. And um, that means that vampires exist in the MCU. They basically.
The thing is, I don't know. Is Sony connected to the MCU? Because Sony is like, because I mean, that would mean that Venom is in the same universe as this Spider-Man, and like a grown man messing with a high school teenager it does not look good. But as you were saying,
Yeah.
yeah, that yeah, there's vampires. There's definitely vampires. I think one thing I'm scared of is that I don't will they okay, like the question on my mind is it will it be R rated?
Ooh, yeah. I doubt it. I doubt it because I think all these properties need to tie together, need to fit together in some or other way. Um, it would be great if
Okay.
it was. It would be great if it was. Like, um, I know they joke about it, but how likely is it to ever see Deadpool in the main MCU? How how like and we just saw this Loki moment now where Loki wakes up and looks up and sees alligator Loki, kid Loki, classic Loki, and what did you say, boastful Loki?
Yeah.
Um, what if this moment repeats? What if this is setting up as like foreshadowing? It happens. Spider-Man falls through space, and this is what all the huff and the puff is going on. He wakes up in some kind of middle world like that, and he like sees Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, um, and the same thing can be said. I think go for it. Just do the gory Blade. It's worked before, and people didn't even know it was a Marvel title at that time. Everyone praises Spider-Man for being the first live action comic book Marvel movie. Everyone forgets about Blade. I don't know.
Yeah, no, Blade was, and I'll say this first. Blade to me, Blade 1 and 2 is way better than Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel. I feel like Blade 1 it smoked Spider-Man 1 out of the water. I watched them two recently. I enjoyed Blade way more.
But I
And I
think,
know Blade had less like effects, but
yeah.
just my personal opinion.
But that's the
Here's
cool
the
thing
other thing
about
that
Blade. Like Blade is the type of movie that will have longevity. It's something you can go back to and watch over and over. I suppose I did the same for Spider-Man, um, 1, 2, and 3. Um, what's his name? Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. But there's something I do appreciate of that Spider-Man, so I won't sell it short. I do have my 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 love because I'm not always all about the gore. Sometimes I like the soppiness and the campiness and the weirdness and the weird acting from William Dafoe, and from Tobey Maguire. She's an angel, Aunt May. Never have a character ask if someone else is an angel. You just lose all respect at that moment. Um,
I'll say this though. I'll say this for the Sam Raimi because I was a kid when they came out, so they were right for my demographic. But the other thing is I was always a Spider-Man fan. So like the only thing that I had an issue with in those movies was that he wasn't making jokes. Like that was the thing that bothered me the most is I wanted more jokes.
yeah,
When we got jokes, I was like, yes, there's Spider-Man I know. I want more, but then he was not doing jokes.
he wasn't
So like
quippy
the
enough.
action in the yeah, that the
Yeah,
action in that movies were great. Like the cinematography was great. I even think Tobey Maguire was all right. Like definitely I didn't know what a high schooler looked like, so in my head he was a high schooler, even though he was like
30-year-old
18.
high schooler.
But but definitely I don't go back to them like I go back to Blade 1 and 2, but I
Yeah,
still see that those movies are enjoyable, even though I do have sort of issues with them in general. But for me as a kid, I was like, this is cool, but it's not Spider-Man to me.
yeah,
Like I wanted my Spider-Man from the cartoons, like from the
yeah,
90s cartoon and like spectacular Spider-Man. I wanted more of that vibe. Whereas with Blade and the Blade movies, that felt like it was Blade in the comics once they started changing him after that movie. So it felt like that's what Blade would be like when
yeah.
when he's telling people everybody want to ice skate uphill or some stuff like that. That was so cool. But
Yeah, they
getting
actually
back to
they actually improved on the character. It's like
oh
yeah.
in
So
spades.
with Blade, they actually took a character and improved him, made him better, and then you could actually see that variation. I suppose in some ways they did that with Iron Man and Cap, actually, in a way, in the MCU. From the comic book version of Tony Stark, of Iron Man, he actually got an improvement, more personality, I'd say. Um,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
in 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 the MCU version of him. Captain America as well, his character evolved. I always thought of Captain America, but I suppose that was the deal. The comic book version of him was very black and white, a Boy Scout through and through. Um, Always the right thing. Even his voice sounded different to me when I read him in the comic books. He was almost like Superman's voice. He was, come civilians, I am Captain America and I will save you.
yeah,
Chest out,
yeah,
arms on his hips. That's how I used to read Captain America back then. Come, Nazi scum, let me take you down. You will fall to
yeah,
the power of my mighty shield. That's how I read Captain America. And
That's
now when
hilarious.
I read him, it feels more like a person, like a veteran, like a dude who was through the war, who's seen the most, who has people's best interests. So where characters get improved when they go to screen, so that it feeds back to improvements on them, you're right. With Spider-Man, watching all three of those movies, and even the MCU version of the movie, um, it almost feels like they something was missing or something was detracted from the character. I think
Yeah,
Spider-Man read well in the comics. He acted well in the comics. I think the fact that you couldn't see his face in the comics when he was Spider-Man for the most part. Because have you ever noticed that when you read the comics, even though Peter Parker's face changes comic to comic or series to series, you actually don't care. You almost don't care that
yeah.
he looks different. In some places, Peter Parker wears his nerd glasses, some he doesn't. Some he wears a bow tie, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he's half cool, sometimes he's not. But you actually don't care what Peter Parker looks like because as soon as he's Spider Man, you impose yourself on the character. And I think it's because you actually can't see his face underneath.
And also because they did a consistent characterization of him from series to series. It
Yeah,
never felt like he changed dramatically. You never
yeah,
felt like the Peter Parker in this series was totally different. Like the only time there was a huge dramatic change was after Civil War when Wilson Fisk tries to kill Aunt May.
yeah.
That was the only time you saw a significant change in
In
Peter Parker's character.
Oh, that's when he
So
needed to, and that's also after he sold after Civil War, um, um, when they retconned everything when he sold his marriage to Mephisto, which is weird.
so I hated that book. I hated that book so much. I was like, Marvel, you're gonna do this again?
Ah, but
That's
they
one thing.
but
That's
they
one thing I
had
hate
the
about Spider-Man.
yeah, they had the spin-offs. They had all the other variations. They had Mayday Parker. They did have a universe where him and Mary Jane ended up stayed together. Um, so that's cool, and that's a cool thing they could do in comics. I think
Yeah,
it's easier to retcon things in comics than they are once you put them on screen.
yeah, no, most
Yeah,
definitely. But getting back to the MCU made, they can make like I don't know. It might be difficult. Maybe not completely R-rated. Maybe they can go for a PG-13 because like if you look at Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that wasn't completely like child friendly
yeah,
or child centric. There was like some legitimate violence in there where they even broke the US agent's arm or whatever in
yeah.
that fight or whatever. So maybe they can take sort of a tone like that. I don't know.
I
But like
I think they will. I do think they will. I don't think they'll play it too close. Look, it's gonna be vampire slaying unless they do it Buffy style, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where no blood, you stab them and they just poof into dust type of thing. Um,
well, I mean they kind of had some of that in the Blade movies. They kind of had some of that where
hmm,
when he would like blast a vampire, it would be bloody for a second, but then they would evaporate into a skeleton
yeah.
or whatever.
So I
So
think they
maybe
can. I think they
they can
can
play with
pull. They
that.
can still pull off that sort of that styling. Like I don't think it'll. I think they'll find a good way to pull it off. We'll have to see. It's like something like the Mandalorian. That's also Disney technically, right? And there's some
Oh no,
moments
Disney proper. That's Disney proper.
that's
Yeah.
Disney proper, yeah. And it seems kind of violent. Like the fights actually seem intense. You still get into the action, but technically all of that is still PG.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, Deadpool. But the thing about comics though is that when Deadpool would cross over into a Spider-Man thing, he would play by Spider-Man's rules. So maybe that would be cool if you could like start sectioning off like parts of the MCU
Yeah,
where like grimier characters would be with like grimier characters and they
yeah.
would have like a grimier story, and then
Because
parents would just have to be very stern about their kids watching the MCU movies where they say
but
this one you can't watch.
But remember, you're falling into your own trap, and I think that's what's happening here. Is your blade in your head is Wesley Snipes' blade, so the
Yeah,
mood and the tone and the visuals, you always see Blade as that character. And once
yeah,
someone introduces something else, it's gonna make you cringe initially, and you'll have
yeah,
to either start getting used to it or you'll have to just come to terms with the fact that your character that a character that you bonded with and connect with and see in this light. It's like we spoke the last time about recasting Chitala.
yeah, 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 yeah.
you know um, if you're gonna lose a character you've bonded or fixated with or something like that, it's gonna hurt. And what are
Yeah.
they doing? You know, it's like the Godfather. What do they do to my boy? You know, look what they did to my boy. You know, um, yeah, like even with Tom Holland. Tom Holland is great Spider-Man, but I hated the fact that he had like a mini Iron Man suit on.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
couldn't.
Spider-Man
Yeah,
never
I had to
he
come to
when he
terms with
had
it. Just like you
gadgets.
said.
When he
Just
had
like you said,
gadgets,
I
his
had to come
gadgets
to
were
terms with that.
rudimentary. Yeah, when he had
Yeah.
gadgets, they were rudimentary, and he built them himself.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
it feels
Like
like,
even
oh, he had to
even
lean on Tony Stark. Tony Stark had to build him a suit. The
yeah.
suit has all these gadgets. He actually has
Yeah.
someone to talk to in his helmet. He has like what
Yeah.
was the name? Friday? Was it Friday in his
Yeah.
suit?
No. Yeah. I think it was Friday.
He had yeah he had a AI in his suit, and it distracts from the fact that he's like talking to himself. Like I always read it in the comic books, like I do personally. I speak to
Yeah.
myself to psych myself up. So when
Yeah.
he gets his quips and his jabs, it's kind of his way of psyching himself up. If he gets hurt or knocked down, he makes a jab so that the hit doesn't feel as painful. You know,
Yeah.
he,
Yeah.
he makes
Yeah.
light of the situation to deal. And we know a lot of people, I'm probably one of them, you make jokes to
Me
deal with
too.
hard situations, you know?
Yeah, me too. That's one thing that I connected with Spider-Man so heavily to the point where I actually do it in my actual life right now.
Right?
Like when things are going terribly, I start making jokes.
Exactly.
So I yeah, like I think the thing is that they wanted him for a smaller audience. I think they wanted that Spider-Man for a because like if you watch the Ultimate Spider-Man comic, they put a lot of that stuff into this Spider-Man,
Yeah.
which I don't really like a lot of because I was like, you guys came so close with like getting a good Spider-Man in. And the other thing that he needs to do is keep his mask on. I'm tired of this demasking.
Yeah,
Like
right?
every 5 seconds the mask is off. And also like the way Aunt May finds out about him and the mask. And I was just like, my Spider-Man would have never have done that.
Yeah.
Like in the house. And then also Aunt May is just cool with the fact that her kid is Spider-Man. I'm just like, I don't care how old you are. Like my mom, like right now, I'm 26 years old. If my mom were to find out I was a superhero, she would freak out.
Exactly.
Like,
But she's young, but this Aunt May is young and hip and with the times, you know?
but yeah, but with the times doesn't mean with the bullets flying at your kid. Like
And
you
nearly
know,
killing them at every turn. Exactly. Exactly.
because I mean, like if she were to find out what happened when he got snapped by Thanos, he wouldn't be Spider Man anymore.
Yeah, yeah. You were gone for 5 years and you died on a different planet, not even on Earth.
I'm just saying. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to what they do with Blade. I hope that they get it right. And I think they can make Deadpool work. But yeah, Feige's got a lot of balls to juggle. We'll see.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think he's
he'll
doing.
quit.
I think they're doing all right. I think their team has things figured out, and I think they're slowly um, piecing all the pieces of Phase Four together. Because I mentioned this the last time as well as the Marvels has also been announced, and they've got some set footage of Kamala Khan and Captain Marvel and I don't know what they're gonna call her. If they're gonna call her Pulsar or what's her other
I
name?
hope they go with Spectrum.
Or
I hope they go
Spectrum.
with
Yeah,
Spectrum. Because I know she's been Pulsar, Spectrum, and Photon.
she's also
My
been Miss
favorite
Mar.
one
She's
is
also been
Spectrum.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, but I think she's gonna go with Spectrum,
Yeah,
cause or Photon. Spectrum or Photon is my guess.
yeah. So then what did I say? Did I say Pulsar or did I say Photon? It is Photon because the powers are,
No,
are are are
Pulsar
directed
is there.
around light.
Pulsar is there. I think Pulsar is there. It was one of her names. I
Yeah,
think so.
yeah. She had many names. I know Photon was one of her names because the powers are do work around light and the light spectrum and things
Yeah,
like that, which makes sense. Um, yeah, but that's also, and in order to have Kamala Khan, you need to have Inhumans or X-Men or something like that. But that's your,
yeah,
yeah, but again, that's our comic book brains telling us certain things that need to happen,
yeah.
and the
Yeah.
storylines
We'll
don't
see.
need to follow that. So
We'll see.
I don't know. This is what I wanted to bring out when you mentioned the ultimate universe. Have you know
Yeah,
a lot of things in the Marvel universe are taken from the ultimate universe.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
even
Captain
Steve
America.
Rogers' backstory is way closer. Bucky's backstory is way closer to the Ultimate Universe. Even Thor's is closer to the Ultimate Universe version of those characters. And I think it's because the Ultimate Universe is newer and has a
Yeah.
more through line. It has a more consistent through line of how characters interact. It's like them
Even
going
though,
back
even
and
though that universe is kind of horrible, I think it's a mixture between 616 and the Ultimate Universe. Because the Ultimate
yeah,
Universe, the only thing that was keeping that going was Spider-Man, if
yeah,
we're being honest. But like, yeah, no, definitely, because Captain America's strength, it's from the Ultimate Universe.
yeah.
Like he's doing things in that movie where I'm just like, this has to be the ultimate version because there's no way like 616 Cap can hold a helicopter the way
With
he
his
held a
arm,
helicopter. Yeah,
yeah,
that was yeah. So I mean, for me in particular, one thing I'm excited about definitely is Shang Chi. Apparently, I've been
yeah.
saying it wrong forever. It's Shang Chi, not Shang Chi. I used to say Shang Chi a lot,
Is it
so it's
Shang
Shang
Chi?
Chi. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I don't know. The Asian people are saying it, so I don't know. I keep, but yeah, that's one property I'm super excited for because I've been a fan of this character for years. Like I was a fan of Bruce Lee ever since I was a kid. He was ironically my first martial artist. And
Yeah,
the movie I watched of him was like this badly edited movie that he didn't actually release. I somehow got it on like a VHS tape
yeah.
and like there was random cuts in the movie. Like he'll be fighting in the screen and he'll be kicking somebody and they'll show the kick like 3 times. It was
Really?
terrible. But in my mind, in my mind, it was like one of the greatest martial arts movies I'd ever seen ever, and it
Yeah,
was a
I'm
Bruce
also
Lee movie.
look. I'm also a massive Bruce Lee fan. Um, based on the fact. Sorry, that's my daughter crying in the background. Um, yeah, massive Bruce Lee. Even my martial arts that I do a little bit. It's mixed in. I do MMA, but a big part of it is Jeet Kune Do and Wing Chun.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Jeet Kune Do was developed specifically by Bruce Lee. So a lot of what I've learned is Jeet Kune Do. So you know, um, yeah. What else can you say about the legend?
Nah, man, I was actually sad that I would have never gotten to meet him. Like that's how much of a fan I was. It's like I would have wanted to, and I always am curious if he made those sounds in a real fight or if that was for the movie. Like those sounds he used to make in the movies,
Yeah,
I used to just wonder, did he do
but I
that for
believe
real?
I believe it was. I believe it's because even if you watch boxes, it's a breathing exercise.
Oh,
So when you but I know they do exaggerate it in movies so that you know. I know what's his name? Um Samyang
Sammo
Ho.
Hung.
No, wait,
Sammo Hung.
Sammo Hung. I don't know. Sorry, Sammo Hung and Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
They were I watched this documentary and they were basically explaining that even in Chinese opera, when you're doing stunts and coordinating, those sounds are to help you know which move is coming next because it's not
Oh,
it's not what always 100% choreographed. It's kind of like you're gonna attack from this, so I'll block in this direction. Well, come from this. So when you hear like a yeah coming in, you know where to.
oh,
So it helps the
okay.
choreography a bit as well.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Because I
Yeah.
love making. I still do that. I still do like those sounds to this day. Like I bought a set of nunchucks, and I'll just be. I hit myself in the face all the time. I need to actually learn how to use them.
No, I've always
But yeah.
find nunchucks harder. Like my what's it is Kali sticks. So
Uh huh.
two sticks
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I just stab. Kick colored, knives.
But getting back to Shang Chi for a second, yeah, I can definitely see where they've taken stuff like they've changed a lot of stuff with him. Cause yeah,
Yeah.
in the old comic books, it was not so great. They made them look like Simpsons. I still love those comic books, but
Yeah,
like
but
yeah,
they they also have, because it was written by Westerners, you had like characters literally called things like Fu Manchu,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I was
No, but it was
racially,
great though.
I was
No, it was
racially, some
definitely.
of it was racially insensitive. Like, I'm no, I wouldn't think of myself as a snowflake, but there's some sensitivity that does need to happen, you know. Um,
No, no. I mean, some of those guys look like cats. Like they have
yeah,
actual cat eyes. It was a lot.
yeah,
I admit that. But like the story, I loved the story. Like the story was so good. Like when I was reading it, I used to get excited for like the next issue. When I managed to collect the 40 issues of the Master of Kung Fu,
yeah,
like when they were building up to events in that story, I used to get excited. Like one of my favorite fights in comic books is Shang Chi versus the cat, which happened in the Master of Kung Fu. That was one of my favorite comic book fights, and the way they built it up, I liked it a lot. Like they did do some solid writing for it, even though they were very racially insensitive.
yeah,
And the other thing that made me mad about Marvel is that they put him on the shelf for so long. They did what they did to Black Panther, where they just didn't write for him for like years and
yeah.
years and years. So I'm glad to see that he's back, but there's definitely huge changes in the trailer. He's now got the 10 rings
Yeah.
because Marvel also don't want to do the Mandarin the way they did the
Yeah,
Mandarin.
I think this is all gonna retcon the Mandarin again and bring him back as a proper character, because now a lot more has been opened up. I think also since like Wanda, and since Sorcerer Supreme, since Doctor Strange, so magic can actually exist. Back when they had the fake Mandarin, and then the other white dude as the Mandarin, um, the double reveal. Um, Magic didn't exist in the MCU.
Well, it kind of did, kind of,
You're thinking like
because there
Norse
was Thor.
wise,
Yeah, there was like Thor, and there was the Loki and the Tesseract. But I get what you're saying. It
but
wasn't like there was magic.
yeah, because what they were explaining with Thor and things, everything you see as magic or technology you don't understand yet can be perceived as magic. If
Yeah.
if you were to go 200 years back to the or 400 years back to the 1600s and show somebody your cell phone and have images displayed on your screen, that would be sorcery and you'd be burnt at the stake.
Yeah.
But secondly, me and you would probably have to run away from those settlers.
Yeah. Yeah. No. That's why there's this thing where they say, what's this, like people of color do not need time machines because if we go back
Right?
in time, must go back to like 1999. That's as far as we can go back. Anywhere past that is dangerous.
Yeah. Yo, it's so weird that these things, like within my lifetime, this strangeness of the world actually existed.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, with the Shang-Chi, I'm excited for what they're gonna do. I'm excited for that change because I mean, in the comic books later with Shang-Chi later stories, because they still did publish books here and there, which were actually pretty cool. They retconned him where he changed to be Han, which was the reference to Enter the Dragon,
Yeah,
because that was the whole thing of Shang-Chi being based off of Bruce Lee or whatever. Then he was changed to Zheng Zhu in the latest
yeah.
iteration, and now he's going to be the Mandarin. I mean, it works for somebody like the Mandarin because the Mandarin would be a guy who has a lot of aliases, so they can still play with that idea
Yeah,
and all of that.
with the Mandarin being more of like a mantle than an actual person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even Mandarin himself just going through different names because he's committing different crimes across the world and all of that stuff.
Oh, you're thinking it like that, like a saboteur. But I still can't dissect from the trailer. Like, is it gonna be one of those shows that falls into kung fu tropes in a way? Is it gonna be like a like a modernized version of your classic kung fu movies, or is it gonna just be like an action movie, thriller type of thing, mystery? adventure. Like I have no idea or no clue where it's going. And I'm kind of excited for content like that as like Guardians of the Galaxy when I first saw it or first saw the teasers and trailers. I've absolutely no idea what to expect from it. And that kind of makes me excited.
Yeah, no, I mean that's one thing that's exciting me too. But the other thing I will say for me in particular is that like even if they go with the classic stuff, I think the problem is because I know a lot of people were saying for a long time the reason they didn't do Shang-Chi was because it was stereotypical.
Yeah,
But like Bruce Lee still made those movies.
yeah,
And one thing he did in those movies was is he made his characters characters. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like they had emotions, they went through things.
yeah,
Even if you go to something like Fist of Fury, when he's just killing like half of the cast or whatever,
yeah,
like you have a motivation, you understand why, and you understand why he's so upset because of
yeah,
what happens at his school, and you
yeah.
understand that he's challenging those dojos because he's standing up for a set of principles
Yeah, there's
type of.
important inciting incidents that derive the plot and the story and the character motivation forward.
So I think that's the thing for me is that even if they do go that classical route, if they give us characters and they give us motivations and they give us stories, that's enough. Like a stereotype to me is when you just make that person one thing and that's it.
Yeah,
Like if he's just going through the movie, just wow, the entire
two
movie,
a
and
two-dimensional
that's it.
character, a flat two-dimensional character.
Yeah.
Um,
Then it's a stereotype to me. But if
what do you
let
think
this
about the old TV show tie-ins, the old Danny Rand and Iron Fist and Colleen, those characters like tying into because they would.
I don't know if they're coming back.
I don't think that, yeah, but like this is like the perfect segue because these things all the Iron Fist was part of the Master of Kung Fu comics, wasn't it, at one point as well?
No, they crossed over a lot, but they were separate comics.
Yeah,
Like Shang Chi used to show up a lot in the Iron
yeah,
Fist. And
that's
yes,
what I mean. Yeah,
fun fact, he's better than Danny Rand. I know there's people who think Danny Rand is better than Shang Chi. No, it's the other way
no,
around.
Danny Rand
Shang
is
Chi,
trash.
no, like in the comic books also, and this has been a debate on Reddit and stuff. Like I said, I know my grounded characters more.
Yeah,
So there was a whole thing about how who was better between the two of them. And I simply said in the thread that Shang-Chi started when he was 3 years old. Danny Rand started when he was 12. Do the
yeah.
math. Like it's I mean of
I'm
like this
I'm glad you got insight into this because to me these were the obscure Marvel comics that I actually didn't read much of. But I'm definitely gonna get out and check out more of it before the rest of the
yeah.
show and things
Yeah.
come out.
Yeah, Master of Kung Fu. It's not a long run, unfortunately, in my opinion, but it is a very tight story, and you definitely get to see like because was this a show that Bruce Lee was pitching?
Yeah,
They stole it from him. It was called Kung Fu.
yeah.
So basically, they Hollywood took it from him, and I think the Master of Kung Fu book is also kind of based on that. So it's basically and it goes into other levels as well because
But
you
wasn't
start to
there a
see
show like that from Bruce Lee as well? That actually they turned it into a movie. I haven't watched it. I think it was something called Warrior or The Warrior or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. So with Warrior, yeah, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
they do things like that in the Master of Kung Fu book, and then also you get to see Shang Chi work with MI6. So
Okay.
he starts working with like a secret organization and all of that stuff in those books. Like it's a pretty if you can get your hands on it, it's a pretty good read.
I'll
I
check it
enjoyed
out. You
it,
said
and
it's
I
only
definitely think
40 issues, eh?
I think so somewhere there, 40 to 45. It's not a lot,
Ah, that's not
and
too
I think
bad. That you could get through on a weekend or something.
yeah, like it's a nice volume, and it does cover everything you probably need to know about the movies, and you'll see where they make the obvious changes that they're supposed to make.
Yeah.
So yeah, anybody listening to this, it's a really good read. But yeah, getting back to the movie and the trailer, I'm definitely excited. There's only one question I have is that they have the Abomination. I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah.
Kevin Feige just confirmed that the Abomination is fighting Wong in like one of the cages. And first off and foremost, like the Abomination punches the Hulk out.
Yeah.
So I don't they can't have Shang Chi versus the Abomination. Like I know it's his movie.
Look, Look, Abomination doesn't have Hulk's trauma. So Abomination isn't as much a rage monster as Hulk is, I suppose.
But he's definitely stronger
Oh,
than Shang Chi.
talking about Hulk and Spider-Man. The Celestials are also the reason why their gamma mutation and spider mutations didn't kill them, and why it gave them powers.
Really?
Yeah, so that's sort of the massive retcon of this whole story. The idea is that certain genetics get passed on, and when specific incidents happen to the right people in the right moment, instead of them like just if you got gamma radiation, you would die, unless you Bruce Banner who had the specific gene, and Peter
That is
Peter
the right
Parker
one
with this
to know.
specific gene. I think they kind of just tying all those stuff together. It was good
That
enough
makes
for me
that makes
not knowing
excellent
that.
sense.
Now I've known it, and now it's spoiled a lot. Not spoiled a lot of things, but oh, okay, yeah. There's a big MacGuffin that explains it all away. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know
Abomination
how.
is not a Abomination is not a rage monster per se. Like he doesn't get stronger the madder he gets. He's just always strong. He stays on that base level. Um, Hulk is sort of this fluctuating thing. The more stable his emotion, the weaker he is. Professor Hulk at the moment, or Smart Hulk, what that we have now, is is not ever going to be as powerful as Savage Hulk.
I still think they did him dirty though. Like he should have at least gone a one-on-one with Thanos before. Like he doesn't even get to see
Yeah,
Thanos and
that was also very yeah. That's the true story. That was extremely disappointing. That
you
was
should have
that
at
was a
least got
missed
you should have at least
opportunity.
got like a one-on-one where he gets Thanos on the ground because now nobody respects the Hulk after what Thanos did to him in the MCU. But
But the
anyway,
cool thing about seeing Abomination means that technically Edward Norton is canon, or at least that
yeah,
variation of the Hulk is canonical to the bigger
yeah,
story.
yeah. I guess so. Edward Norton might be coming back and wanting his check.
Now
No,
I doubt that. Like there was like I've watched some stuff with Edward Norton. There was big fallout to this whole story and Hulk thing and whatever.
oh, kind of like what happened with Terrence Howard.
Yeah,
But yeah, getting back to Shang Chi for a second. Yeah, I'm totally excited for it though, and I like everything I'm seeing. Also, the actor who's doing it, like I know him to be a legitimate actor, and he also does like martial arts
yeah,
and all of that stuff. So he's gonna be doing actual martial arts in the thing, which is pretty nice as well. He doesn't need a stunt man. He's kind of like he's in the Jackie Chan camp, which is cool.
yeah,
And yeah, I definitely want to see all the villains that could possibly come from this because Shang Chi does have like a lot of villains. Granted, a lot of them are tied to what's going to be the Mandarin at this point because like there was a story in the comic books where they were called the Deadly Houses. I think it's called the Deadly House of Five. I'm not sure. It might be the Deadly House of Five. So it was five houses that did. So one house did swords, other houses did hammers, other
okay,
houses did sticks, and other house did hands.
okay.
So he's known as the deadly hands of kung fu. So that was like his weapon of choice.
Oh,
So yeah, that's why like Shang Chi can do things like block bullets with his fingers and all of that
yeah.
stuff. Because yeah, he's from the deadly house
Look,
of
based on what
hands
I
or whatever.
based on what I saw from the trailers, when my kids ask me about Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action, I'll tell them, no, that's Shang-Chi. That's my Last Airbender.
Yeah, no, that last Airbender movie, you don't show anybody that ever again. M
Mm-mm.
Night Shyamalan, I will never forgive you. Anyway,
That doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Bad memory.
all right. So, speaking of well, not kung fu, but speaking of like Asian stuff in general, let's jump onto anime for a second. So we
Yeah,
talked about it before we jumped on here. Chainsaw Man is getting an anime adaptation, which I'm kind of excited for. So to give everybody some backstory, this is basically about like it's this kid who's an orphan and he's a derelict. He's living on the streets. He's just kind of kind of surviving day to day. He has nothing going on for him
Yeah,
literally, and
it's
then
actually worse than that. His father died. His dad dies and leaves him indebted with the yakuza.
oh yeah,
Yeah, and so he literally, like, his biggest aspiration in life is to eat a nice meal. He wants to have a bath and he wants to eat. He like literally gets so indebted and have to do so much jobs. I don't know if I'm taking over. Sorry, I'm jumping in on you.
no, go ahead,
He
go
has to
ahead. No,
take
you
on so much
totally.
gigs and he goes through so much stuff. Um, yeah, that he's like like you said, he's living on the streets. He's having the worst of it, and later gets to the point where he has to sell body parts um, to get by and to pay back. Besides just getting by, to pay back the debts his dad left him with. Um, but then, but in order in this universe, devils exist, and devils are like a normal thing in society. You know, people know about them. They exist. They can either be bad for society or good for society. And in order to pay his debts, he becomes a devil hunter.
Yep, that's where the story kicks off,
That's how the story
people.
kicks off. Yeah.
That's where the story kicks off. And let me tell you, the lengths that it goes to, it's insanity. Like the stuff that he does in the series, the psychological aspect of the series, and all of that stuff. And you're definitely right. Like this guy just wants regular stuff.
Yeah.
Like at one point in the manga, he's just like, man, I just want a girlfriend. And they're like, okay, if you kill like 30 of these evil, like world-ending devils over there and demons, then we can talk about getting you a girlfriend. And he's like, all right, I'm about to go kill all of these demons. And like, and he like gets torn to shreds. It's insane. And at the end of the whole ordeal, he's like, where's my girlfriend? Like I was just like, that is a like I want to actually sit down one of these mangaka writers and just ask them, guys, what happened in your childhoods?
What
Like
what what
what
what went on in your head? It's like, yeah,
what
what I don't know much about, like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know much, even though it might sound good, I don't know much about the series, about Chainsaw Man. It was actually just recently introduced to me, so I'm super keen. I've heard amazing things about more than just the action and the fighting. Like I think you mentioned it now, the personal journeys of the characters. You know, realizing that everything that you wish for once you have it was working for it more important than actually gaining it at the end. If you get everything you want, what more is there for you? You know, like um, so it looks at ambition and that kind of stuff. Well, that's what I understand. But also, even the way he gets his powers, apparently, like he adopts this like demon dog type of thing, and then he dies, and then the dog like basically tells him like, um, all I want, I'll give you everything, but all I want is just to see your dreams, or to dream,
yeah.
to have you dream with me, and then they kind of fuse or something like that.
Yeah, because the crazy thing is the demon dog that he adopts is kind of at the same point as him in the demon world. So like the demon dog also just has these low aspirations, has nothing going on for him. That's why he attaches himself to the main character because
Ah,
we're like two sides of the same coin. So and it turns out that the demon dog is actually was a very important demon in the demon realm, like to the point where other demons were scared of the dog. So they somehow managed to strip its power and all sorts of things of that nature. It's crazy insane. Like this particular guy who's writing Chainsaw Man, or who I don't know, Chainsaw Man, I think it's gonna continue. But yeah, he did something called geez, I think it was called Fire Fist,
oh
and it's
yes,
one of the most
Fire
disturbing
Force,
manga.
Fire Force with the fireman.
No, not Fire Force, not Fire Force. I
Oh,
think it's Fire Fist. And Fire Force is something else. So yeah, if I don't know if you I don't know if it's called Fire. I don't know if it's called Fire Fist. Let me check it out quickly.
the reason why I bring up
I
Fire
would
Force
say
is because I don't know if it's just me, but I
yeah. Go
noticed
ahead.
similarities in the art style.
I'm trying to see if it's. Oh yeah, Fire Punch. There we go.
Fire
It's
Punch.
called Fire Punch. Yeah, I wouldn't read it. like personally, it disturbed the hell out of me. And there's like themes in there where I was like, the thing is with Chainsaw Man is kind of the mainstream version of this mangaka. Like the main, like he streamlined a lot of his ideas, and he managed to make a more palpable story.
Yeah.
Whereas Fire Punch just goes all over the place, and it'll have some things that'll keep you up at night. It definitely kept me up at night to the point where I had to drop it. So read at your own peril. But getting back to Chainsaw Man, getting back to Chainsaw Man, yeah, I'm definitely excited for this. I enjoyed a lot of it, and the heartbreak that's in there for the people that love heartbreak stuff. There's plenty of that stuff as well. So I'm and the style that they're using. I'm so glad that they're using the style that they're using for the anime, because I know a lot of anime nowadays, and some animations love to use 3D rendering, but there's just something about 2D animation that will always be it for me. Like 3D
Yeah.
rendering is fine, it's cool, but 2D animation is just where my heart lives. So I'm so excited that they're going to be using that.
But there is something I noticed in it, but they do it really well. It's called rotoscoping. Um,
Oh, okay.
so in the animation, or what I saw in the trailer, because I watched the trailer for this, and it looks insane. But the rotoscoping is so on point. Rotoscoping is basically like what they did in the last Airbender. They have actual
Yeah.
people act out the moves and they animate over it. So they use
Oh,
real
okay.
people reference for certain actions and movements, and obviously the animators um, exaggerate it or change angles or things like that. But the moves are actually the way you can tell by the way characters move that they actually have dynamic dynamic movements and posing, and it's insane. I love it. Like I love that kind of um, attention to detail. Like I know you're talking from you on story and character, but I can't wait to see it for the animation techniques
No,
that
hey,
they.
you're the expert when it comes to this stuff. Like, hey, anybody listening to this, please follow Quiet Beach. The stuff that they've got coming with Quiz is going to be insane, and he really does this for real. So, rotoscoping is a new term to me. I got a funny story, a short story. My brother introduced me to rotoscoping because he's also wanting to be an animator,
Yeah,
and they did it for one of our favorite games. So, me and him, we both love the Devil May Cry series.
yeah,
So the so there was a behind the scenes video where they were doing a lot of the cutscenes for the Devil May Cry, and it's like it's some of the funniest footage I've ever seen. So they have like they'll have like the actors or whatever jumping on like styrofoam or whatever and like running on things, and they'll have like they'll throw like little CGI, like very bad CGI stuff, or very low budget like editing stuff, just to get like what the scene will look
yeah.
like, and they'll have a person in a suit flapping his wings and everything. So yeah, they they did they did a whole thing for DMC5, and it's hilarious to watch. But when you actually watch the actual animated cutscenes for the video game, the reason why those cutscenes are so immersive is because of that attention to detail, as you said.
Yeah,
So I'm excited to know that they doing something like that in Chainsaw Man. That's very
yeah.
exciting for me.
Like rotoscoping, I think in a way it's like the predecessor to mocap.
Ah,
Like in,
okay.
in mocap, but mocap is more for CG overlays and stuff like that. But Hulk basically wears a suit, or Mark Ruffalo wears a suit. It picks up how he breathes, it picks out his facial expressions, and then you stick it on a model. With rotoscoping, you literally have to film someone doing something and then separate each frame into frames and then go over and use the poses. Obviously, you'll add poses, and um, foreshortening doesn't film great when you're filming. So you'd have to actually draw proper foreshortening and things like that in. But yeah, sometimes you can tell when people are rotoscoping because then they just cheat, they just trace. But there's actual real skill behind doing it properly, and you can tell like this is done really
Oh,
really well.
okay. Okay. I I uh, I think for an episode though, I do want to have a section on that because I've always wanted to ask a professional about tracing and everything. I think we'll save that for another episode because I
Sure,
definitely
sure,
want to
sure.
know more about that. Because I'm like, I've always seen like weird cases that might pertain to me. But anyway, that's another story
I'll
for
give you
another
I'll
day.
give
But I
you
definitely
this
want to
one
put
thing.
that on the
There's one anecdote. Good artists copy, great artists steal.
Okay, we'll definitely put a pin in that. Yeah, but yeah, for anybody that's going to watch this, yeah, do just know Chainsaw is not family friendly. Just understand that there's a lot of, well, if you've just seen the premise we discussed, of course it's not family friendly at all. There's nothing family friendly about the yakuza and being in debt and living on the streets and dealing with demons. Because I know there's, especially in South Africa, it's kind of strange. I know there's people who look at anime like, ah, that's just a cartoon. Really?
Well, it's not family friendly. One of the main characters sells their genitalia, don't they?
Spoiler alert. But yeah, I'm just saying, like for people in South Africa, just know anime is not. It's not. It is family friendly anime, but there's different. I hope that they start doing that with cartoons as well one day.
Yeah,
I really do. But speaking of something that was like kind of family friendly, but you put onto this show actually. You put me onto this show. Sweet Tooth. I just marathon Sweet Tooth. I'm very hot off of Sweet Tooth, and I did want to talk to you about it. Okay, like first off and foremost, I saw some of the comic because it's based on a comic. For people who don't know, there's an actual comic called Sweet Tooth. It's much more graphic than the actual show, so there's a lot more dark and adult themes. I don't know if you saw the comic book.
yeah, I have. I've seen the comic books. Um,
Did you finish them?
the comic books are. I haven't read all the comics. I've read a bit of it. Just a little bit further than where the show is. So, in the comics, like obviously unfortunately, being a creative doesn't give you much time to consume more content. But I know of Sweet Tooth. I've read a bit of
Yeah,
Sweet Tooth. Um, I know where some of this is going. Um, but the comic book has a very weird style, and it doesn't
yeah.
feel quite as wholesome as the TV show does, just by the style alone.
Oh no.
Like what's
Oh no. Yeah.
there's a character called Bobby. I think he's Bobby. He's a
Yeah.
gopher. In the TV
Yeah.
show, he looks super cute. He's got like little clothes on. And the comic book is like this weird thing with his long teeth. And
Uh, I started like the first set of comic books to like when he gets to the preserve. I'm thinking of finishing it. I just I need to set up Teletubbies afterwards so I don't get depressed. But yeah, getting to the show though, like even though it's like sanitized, there's still a lot of like dark adult theme stuff that's going on in that show that really surprised me. Like, okay, this is total spoilers for anybody who hasn't watched Sweet Tooth. So there's time codes. I'll have to say this every time we start topics. But like with Sweet Tooth, what's this? Like when I was watching the show, they did things where I was just like, wait, you did that? Like that train sequence, I legit was sad. When that guy's former teammate
yeah,
sacrifices himself so they can get off of the train, because he didn't make it. He didn't make it. Like
yeah. The Mark men and it didn't help
he
that he
didn't
like
like.
he had like bad concussions and he couldn't remember things and yeah.
Oh, oh,
But it's
I
like
was
this.
so I was.
But like this, the whole story is like it's a metaphor wrapped in an allegory, stuck inside of an onion with many many layers. Like it's one of those kind of shows that is meant to make you think. Um, there are rights and wrongs, but there are also ethical conundrums. And in a subtle way presents you with things like the trolley problem, the tram problem. um, if you pull a lever, You can diverge a train and kill one person and to save three people. That sort of trolley dilemma sort of question. But what if you derail the train
yeah,
and the one person you need to kill is your mother or your sister to save strangers? Or do you allow the train to kill the
yeah,
strangers and save your
yeah,
one parent? As soon as something becomes close and personal to you, your your ethics towards it and your morality towards it changes. Even though you think you know a bigger question of what's right and wrong. They subtly do it. They don't do it quite as hardcore as that, but they do pose those kind of questions. Sorry, I
I
think
would
I
say they do though. It's kind of hardcore in a sense. Like when you get to the doctor, like sing, like
exactly.
when you get to sing, like sing stuff is rough. That is so rough to me. What happens with Doctor Singh? Because like it's his wife first off and foremost. So
Yeah.
you know he has to save his wife, but then you see the notes and that scene between him and the wife when they're looking at the book. That was like one of the most powerful. They didn't even say anything. There was no dialogue,
They
but the
just
subtext that you
implied.
get from that scene is just like, oh my god,
And the question is what does he need to
like
do? There
he's one of
isn't
the
there
most.
isn't a different way. You need to go into spoilers. The let's call them the critters. The halflings.
Yeah,
Um, how
yeah,
did they come to be? Did you watch it all the way through?
yeah. I watched it all the way through. I made it to the end.
So if you know where Gus comes from, and if you know where all of the or where everyone else comes from, like we have this kind of way you connect. Are we only connecting with Gus because we followed his story from the beginning? If we stood on a different perspective, on the perspective of mankind, of normal people, right? What if the critters are actually making people sick and
Mhm.
they hold a cure? Are they human enough? Is it because they have sentience that they're human? Do we let the rest of humanity suffer and allow it's kind of like X-Men questions, it's this existential questions, and it also has like, are they lesser or are they more? Gus has heightened hearing, heightened smell. He's practically human, but not all of the critters are as human as Gus or what's her name, Wendy, or the pigtails.
Like the thing that made Sing so tragic to me is that he actually actively looks for an alternative. Like I think like what's this where as you meet a lot of the other humans, they've just decided that's it. We're dissecting these things. They're not even children to them. We're
Yeah,
dissecting these things, and that's the end of the story. Because like as they've established in the story, they say that it's not the critters aren't causing the sick, and
yeah.
like what's this, and they're immune to it as well. So they don't get like the same things as like the regular people do.
But the
So like
critters,
I
but the
think for
critters
me,
have the core, have the core. The critters have the cure, but you have to go into the prefrontal cortex.
no, actually they said that that's a bluff. He said that that's a bluff. Like he didn't say that that was actually guaranteed. So they might not have to do that. So there's also a question of if there is another way that you don't have to do that.
That you don't
But
have to
now
kill
they
them
feel
in
like they've
order to
run
get
out of
it.
time.
But remember, the
Yeah.
previous
Now they.
the previous doctor that he got his notes from, she was getting the out of their brains. She did cut their brains open and take the in order for him to treat his wife for all that years. Remember, his wife is also special. His wife is one of the only people that hasn't died after being sick. That's been able to be kept inoculated. And the other weird thing about this show is that the way things unfold, people wearing masks in the street, interacting, social distancing, it was a little close to home also.
Yeah, I won't lie. I won't lie. I won't lie. But also like those village those suburban people are stupid in my opinion. Because I'm like, you're gonna burn the only doctor you have on the street? Like that's
Yeah,
the only doctor you have and you're gonna set him on fire. Like if any of you get sick now, that's it. Like you know that's it. Like you burn the only guy that can help people.
but people's fears make them irrational. People's fears do make them
Yeah.
irrational. It's like anti-maskers for a while in the States. People
Yeah,
didn't want to wear masks. Why? Because they feel trapped. It's a type of denial, not conforming in a way. Like I know it's a conformist
yeah,
thinking that everyone gets this herd mentality. We all need to wear masks and stuff, but it doesn't hurt to do it. Even if you
yeah,
feel
yeah,
if it doesn't, what's it? It's got doing it has a higher benefit than not doing it, except for you personally, for your own personal mentality, for your own personal.
and like the thing is that the masks are not that restricting. Like you
Yeah,
shouldn't be out there that long anyway. So you just put it on, go do what you're doing, and go home. Like I think
exactly,
that's the
exactly.
thing for me. I think like people want to stay, and like it's not like people were outside like that for a long time until the pandemic came about. So
Yeah,
that's the interesting thing about that. But
look, even that
getting
mentality,
back to
that mentality existed in Asian countries or the Orient, or is the Orient racist to say? In Asian countries.
well,
uh,
we asked, hey, we asked, okay, we asked. We don't know.
yeah,
You
we
let us
are.
know, guys.
In Asian countries, they've been just because of population and things like that, not even with like deadly diseases, just because of high populations and crowded environments, people adopted mask wearing there for many many years before COVID was even a thing. People would go on the
Yeah,
trains and have masks on just because they didn't want to get colds and flus and that kind of thing, so um yeah, I don't see, but sort of, yeah, back to the whole sweet tooth mentality is what were we saying about it? Yeah, it's kind of this look at it's human nature as well, like what our fear makes us do. Because as
mm,
they explain in here, one person gives a critter a chance, and that critter evolves or grows exactly the same. Like, why am I calling them humans as if they're not humans? Like a normal person would. They can
yeah,
speak, they talk, they have cognitive skills, but because of people's fear, the other critters, they surprised to find that they actually learn, that they talk, that they walk, they act like actual people. You know,
yeah,
the mass mentality. Every time Sweet Tooth shows up and he speaks, people are surprised. You talk,
yeah, yeah,
just shows
yeah.
how little people think of people that are different.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a big theme in the show. Although I gotta say, I feel sorry for what was his name, Richard Fox. Richard Fox is one of the most tragic fictional
Oh
characters I've
yeah,
ever seen. He didn't even get to he didn't even get to he he got the baby without even he got a baby without even at
yeah,
least having a hard
Papa.
time.
Like he didn't even have a lot of time to get his thoughts together.
Yeah, yeah. Like he just had to take this baby and run for his life
Yeah,
and raise this kid in the wilderness. Like I mean, he's a phenomenal human being. First off and
but
foremost, and
that
he's a
that was
fantastic.
a that was a big moment for me. I was like, what? And where
I
and
mean,
where and where Gus's name come from, like GUS.
yeah, yeah,
What was it? Genetics, something systems or something like that.
yeah. Something like I forgot what it was. I know
GUS.
it was genetic something. But like, yeah, that's the thing. It's like for me, I was just like, yo, you just like he didn't even get like he took her out to dinner one time and he
Yeah,
got the baby
you
without
basically get
even
a baby out of having a crush on a woman.
like that. I've never heard of that. Like at least before you give me the baby, let us have a fun
Yo,
time
but
and
must give the homie props. Like 10 years of commitment of raising a child, like in the woods by yourself.
geez, and you had to build a house and you had to build irrigation. You had to take care of this kid like he was
Yeah,
yours. That's why, like, I know he's a kid, but I got a little bit upset when Gus was like, "That guy wasn't my father." I was like, I turned into my black dad. The black dad inside of me came out when I was like, "Yay!" When I look here.
yeah, yeah. Excuse you. No, but there was sad moments. Like that was all in pain. Like the moment when you come back and you're like, "Oh, I'm making you breakfast, Dad," and he's got the doll propped up in the chair in the shed.
Yeah, yeah.
In the cottage, you're like, "Oh."
Ah, that got me. That got me. That like I cried a few times during this thing.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's dark. It's got these undertones, but it's got actually cool, wholesome moments as well.
yeah, no, I mean there's like a thing of hope,
Yeah,
which is why when you meet characters like Jeopard or whatever,
yeah,
like his story was super interesting to me as well. And yeah, just I just wanted to tell Gus, look, that dude took care of you for 9 years. Stop
yeah.
it.
And
You're
also,
for,
what's her name with Bear catching up with Wendy? I
oh
can't wait to see that either.
yeah, yeah, that's also that was also Bear. I loved Bear as well
Yeah,
in the show. I felt so sorry for her and her crew when she was just trying to do the right thing and her whole crew turned against her and there was a whole civil war and she had to leave. That was that was rough. And also I have to say the actors in this show are phenomenal. Everybody is good. Like the kids are good.
yeah,
The and the kids are the most impressive to me. Like they're good on a level where I'm like, geez, this is like adult level acting. Like the fact that Bear has to bounce off of Jeopard, like Bear has to give Jeopard attitude, and
yeah.
it makes sense. That was like that was some stellar acting from all of like I this show. I only started watching it because you watched it, and I was like, all right, I have to see what it's about, and I was thoroughly surprised.
Yeah,
Like
it was a,
it
it was like
was
a
really
it was like a out of nowhere sort of catch you off guard type of show, you know. I was like, oh, sweet tooth, and then I was like looking at the characters and it was like, looks too wholesome.
yeah,
You know,
me
like
too.
when you actually look at like the books and you look at the art in the books, it's got this dark and almost gothic type of undertone. It's a lot of quiet moments, a lot of moments where characters are like strewn in shadows and they look like everyone kind of looks sad and weird. Like characters kind of
Yeah,
always stand like this in the comics and things like that. And Gus kind of looks more proud. He looks less scared in the show, and I kind of like it in a way. And he's got
yeah.
personality, and
No, the thing is for me, like me, I don't like being depressed. I really
yeah,
don't. Like it takes me a lot to read something that's depressing. And if there's like a good ending at the end, then I will like truck through it or whatever. But if you give me something like, for example, Game of Thrones, where practically everybody dies or whatever, then I'm like, ah, oh.
now what show made me feel like that? I know it gets high praise, and I'm an outlier in this, but Attack on Titan is too much for me, man.
Yep,
It's too
yep.
somber. It's too sad.
Uh,
It's too eating
uh,
potatoes.
yeah. And like I won't talk about it. I do want to talk about it when it becomes a controversy because I can't wait. I didn't finish the manga, but I found out what happens at the end, and I'm of the opinion that the ending of Attack on Titan in the manga it sucks, and it sucks for a particular reason. I won't say
Okay,
right now, but
I
to
haven't
me,
read the manga. I watched season one and two. I'm gonna give it another shot because I haven't watched season three of Attack on Titan yet. Um,
yeah, but I'm saying like where it goes and what they do with the characters, specifically Aaron, because I don't like notoriously I don't like Aaron,
yeah.
but what they're doing what they do with him towards the end, I was just like mwah, like
So you
but
say
anyway, sorry.
no, 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 no. Carry on, carry on.
Oh yeah. Anyway, getting back to Sweet Tooth, yeah. Like they do a great job of balancing hope with like this, like this sadness and this drama that's in the show. They do
Yeah,
a great job, and you really want Gus to be okay. Like the kid makes you really like him, and everybody, you understand why everybody likes him and
yeah.
everything.
Actually,
Because I
really,
mean,
I liked Wendy's character. I don't know why. The piggy character, Pigtails.
yeah, no, I liked her as well. I liked her a
She's
lot. Like
sassy.
I liked her a lot. Yeah.
she's more sassy in this show than she actually reads in the comic book. But
Oh,
but you're talking about like yeah, I think they check they all the other characters, even the ones who can speak, they just seem more submissive in the comic book. They read like they're more submissive in the comic book. Like
mm,
um, they make them more beast-like in the comic book. I think it's intentional to make them feel
Yeah.
more animalistic. Like their sentences are simpler, their way of speaking is way more simple, and Gus is more complex. But it's also the fact that Gus is the oldest of the critters.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
canonically he's the oldest, and we also
Yeah.
know why he's the oldest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Because he was
and
created by that birdie lady in the lab or
I'm sorry.
something. He was created by the birdie lady in the lab.
Yes, by Birdie,
Yeah.
yeah, by his mama, and I
Yeah.
was using that this they released a pathogen into the air when they were creating it, and he's supposed to be the cure. Let me
That's
let me
why I'm
not get
saying that
into
scientists
spoilers,
sometimes.
but you were talking about like the hopefulness of it. They put you in a moment of despair when they capture him and take him to the to the to the um to the
That
facility, to
facility. Yeah.
the clinic, right? To the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
preserve, because the preserve was first a place of hope, and then they turned the preserve into like this prison,
Yeah.
research facility or whatever. So
Yeah.
even when he gets put there with the doctor, you first feel this despair. Oh shit, they put our boy Gus in a cage. But then
Yeah.
when all the other critters come to him and accept him and come and hug him, you're like, oh snap, he found his people. You're like, yeah, come on,
Yeah.
Gus.
Yeah.
But
Now all they must do is like train in the gym and then rise and make a rebellion.
yeah,
But like this is something.
but
This
what's
is
his
something.
name?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
This
Go
is
ahead.
a bit of a spoiler. Um, Wendy's mom,
Yeah.
the caretaker, whatever her name, I forget her name now, and Jeopard, they end
Yeah.
up, they end up,
Yeah. Yeah. You think they'll do that? You
huh?
think they'll do that? You think they'll pair them together in season two?
Well, she did find him now. They didn't. I think she found him, didn't she? And took
Yeah,
him back.
that was some magic though. It means that Jeopard is like part Kryptonian because I thought they shot him, and
They did shoot him. She's
but
patching
he's
him up.
but he's alive. The bullet missed the heart; it missed everywhere.
Something's gonna happen, but I'm not gonna give spoilers. We can talk about it when season two comes out.
All right, all right, all right. I'm gonna go read the book though, because I'm
Yeah,
curious now. I'm gonna go, but that's one thing that I hate about scientists sometimes. And scientists, if you're listening to this, just listen. We have enough problems in the world for you to start making new things in the labs. Like, can we solve world hunger? Can we solve, can we solve global warming? Now these scientists in there, they create new things and they create new viruses, and now all of a sudden we just have to deal with it. I'm like, guys, come on now.
yeah. But look, sometimes these things happen. Like science is two sides of a coin. It's like exactly what happened in Sweet Tooth. The same thing that
Yeah,
can create the world's ultimate vaccine, change one thing in that thing, and it becomes the deadliest, the deadliest
ah,
virus.
yes, sis. All right, but yeah, man, Sweet Tooth was a lot of it was a very very good watch, and I'm keen to see season two now. And like the thing I love the most about the show is that they earn everything. Like Jeopard, Gus earns Jeopard's friendship. Gus earns Bear's friendship. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? They earn Gus's friendship.
yeah.
Nothing is forced. Everything is like natural and dynamic. I really like that stuff in
Yeah,
that
that
show.
was actually good. It was storytelling that was. I think the reason why I recommended it is because it was something I didn't expect it. I
Mm.
didn't expect it to be as well written and as well told. And normally, when you have a show that has a country narrator over the whole show,
Yeah,
a country western narrator over it, you're like, Walker Texas Ranger.
yeah,
Um, but it read and played out well in my opinion. Like I think
yeah,
it kept me engaged. I couldn't wait for the next episode. It's one of those things that I just binged. Um, um, Good writing and, like you said, good acting. The kids all were great actors. Um, Even though Gus is annoying, it makes sense why he's annoying, why he's
yeah,
furious, why he touches
yeah,
everything he shouldn't and pokes at things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Like one moment that secured for me how tight the writing was is when they saved the Singh family. Like when that guy comes in to save the Singh family, like I was like, that is some genius writing because he wasn't even going there to save them. Like they set up why he was going there to save
yeah,
them, and he comes just in time to save them from the burning house. But it
exactly.
was not even to save them; it was to save a book. And I
Yeah,
was just like, this show is tight. Like
yeah,
everything feeds into something. I really love that moment, and I was like, even though the bad guy, I'm sick of him and his whole the human races, what. I'm just like, you see, this is why nature has an issue with us. Because we always want to fight with nature. We don't want to work together with nature. We always want to be like, no, I'm gonna beat nature. You think you're
yeah.
gonna beat Mother Earth? Good luck. But
But
anyway,
yeah, there's one thing that I also that I liked about the show as well is that these kids don't bitch and moan the fact that they're not human. They sort of
yeah,
they sort of accept who they are. But even in the
yeah,
old even in the X-Men animated show, I know they used to say, "I just wish I was a normal human." They never
yeah,
actually say that. They sort of
yeah,
know their plight. Like I was actually thinking about two things. First of all, with just a little bit of rhinoplasty, Wendy could look pretty human. And Gus,
yeah,
if he were to do the Hellboy and shave his horns off and just hide the nubs under his head, no one would know.
yeah, yeah.
Um, like I suppose that is like just they don't ever do that. They don't even do that in the comics. But that could have been a retcon. They can get away with these things, but these kids are accepting of we are these things. This is what we
Yeah.
are, and they're not bitching, complaining about being something different or wanting to be something else.
And I would even add to that to say that they're not even looking at like other kids like they're weird or something like
Yeah,
that. Like they know they're different, but they're still willing to interact.
it
Like Gus's interaction with the other kid, and the fact that they just bond over the fact that they like trains
trains.
and they
Yeah,
like music and all of that stuff. Even though Gus knows that he's a hybrid,
yeah,
that was also a pretty beautiful scene to me. So
yeah,
yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point that like these kids are just okay with who they are,
yeah.
which is
And
a
how it
nice
is in
message to
moments. It's all about the acceptance from the outside. Gus is automatically accepting. It's about yours, like Bear. Um, Bear was automatically once she got to interact with him, she was accepting because Gus didn't second guess or his nature isn't to doubt or to not undermine, to discredit or think badly about other people. He wants to see the good in people first. He assumes the best first.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do that a lot myself. It gets me in a lot of trouble, but I do that a lot myself.
Yeah,
So that's why I really like Gus.
but from a moral perspective, that's probably the better way to live your life, eh? Like, um, I don't think people need to. I'll give people my trust first, and then they can lose it. You get demerit points, like apparently your driver's license will be soon.
Oh man! And with that said, now we got to talk our artist spot for the week. I have a nice artist spot that I've got. Do you want to go first, or should I go
Go
first?
for it, go for it. You just pull out.
Okay, so my artist spot today, and I really like this guy, and you know him. He inks for you, so I want people to check him out more. Muhammad Hussoon, aka Mo Lycan on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
That's my artist spot for the. He did like this beautiful Ben 10 piece, which I saw. Where he was doing some Ben 10 style characters, and I love his art style and his artwork. I've even kind of been studying him without him knowing. So don't let him know. When I've been doing my own studies and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's my artist spot for the week. I'll put a link in the description down below for anybody listening to this. Yes, please go check out Muhammad Hussoon. He's got great stuff going on. And also, he's talking about stuff with Israel and Palestine. I'm on his side. I agree with what he's saying because I agree. You know, I don't want to get political on here, but yeah, I stand with the people of Palestine. You should know why, but yeah, he's also doing a lot of that. So just be aware of that when you go follow him. I don't want somebody to get in there and be like, "Oh, I just came here for cool drawings and all of that stuff. Why is he talking about Palestine?" Yeah, it's there. Just know it's there.
Yeah.
That's my artist one for the
No,
for
agreed.
the
Like
week.
Whether the Palestine, Israel, Gaza Strip whole thing is not your vibe, still check out most stuff for the art. Kid's been coming
Yeah.
up for a long time. I've known him many, many years. I think even way back in the day, um, it was one of our very first like signings or book things, and Mo was one of the first people there. And day to day, and like I need to keep my game up because he's catching up fast. Dude is doing the most. Like his art is improving day to day. But my spot is another homie, Warren van Rensdorf. check out
Oh,
this
okay.
check out this homie. He was one of the lead, or he was the lead inker, and at a point an illustrator at Strike Entertainment as well. Amazing artist, done many books. um, haven't met a person like that's so full of BS but so passionate about drawing and illustration and stuff. Sometimes he can be a difficult homie, but yo, I still love him. Wouldn't trade him for anything. He's always grinding. He's always doing stuff. At these cons, he was probably one of those persons that introduced me to our local cons and our local bookstores, things we got going on in Cape Town, marketplaces, those type of things. He had a little book he called back then. It was called Free Beer Comics.
Oh,
So
okay.
so so he that was his marketing ploy. He tell you, hey, come over and get your free beer, but it would be the name of his comic. um,
That's clever.
Really
That's
good
clever.
illustrator, really loose style. Um, I'm not sure. I think I saw online he's doing commissions at the moment, so he can turn you into like Simpsons style characters and stuff. So check out his stuff; it's awesome. I think on Facebook he's Warren Ray. He's a little bit aloof and a recluse, but if you can find him, check him out.
Oh, is he only on Facebook? Is he not on Instagram?
I don't think he's on Insta at the moment. I haven't seen him on Insta. I think he's been
Uh,
keeping his socials clean. He went into a bubble for a while. I know that he didn't want to be on social media.
oh, okay. I'll try and find him and get a link. I'll
I
try
think
to
he's
find
I
him.
think on Facebook it's Warren Ray, Ray.
Okay. REY.
Um, Warren space Ray. Yeah,
RAY.
yeah. You'll be the profile picture with the Simpsons picture in there.
Okay, cool. I'll have a look for it. If I don't find it, I'll just text you later and see if you can just send it to me directly if I don't find
Definitely.
it. All right. So, man, that was yeah. I definitely go check out those two guys because I'm gonna go check out Warren now. That sounds like a fun time just to have stuff to look at and everything. And that's a pretty interesting story to know that like the local cons and all of that stuff. I still want to go to those cons in Cape Town because I hear so much good stuff about them,
Yeah,
like the
dude,
local
free.
ones.
We
Authentic.
used to have what we called free comic book day. Was at Stadium on Main in Claremont here in Cape Town, um, and they used to be close to. There was a Reader's Den there and a Wizards, where you can get like your gaming, your tabletop gaming, and your cards and your Pokemon, your Yu-Gi-Ohs, your
Ah,
um, um,
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Warhammer. Like those are places I used to frequent back when I was still playing online games. I know Cafe Java used to be there, so I used to go and land there as well because I went to primary school close by. Um, and the other big con that we had before Comic Con dropped in South Africa, we had why am I forgetting its name? Um, 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 FanCon, of course. We had
Mm.
FanCon. FanCon used to be at the CTIAF, the Cape Town International Center, um, Convention Center, and it's ran for many years, right up till COVID became an a-hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, one question though, just before we wrap this up. If COVID like closes or whatever, do you ever think that it closes like it's a school? Like if COVID stops, right, or they vaccinate everybody and all of that stuff, do you ever look at the possibility of maybe like a QuasiCon?
So funny you bring up the word QuasiCon. It's like it's an inside joke. Um, we've been trying to. We've been. I'm one of the fan influencers for Comic Con, for Comic Con Cape Town specifically. So I'm one of
Yeah.
the guys who kind of needs to keep, or when Comic Con was going to be a thing, I was one of the guys who was supposed to keep my ear to the ground here and find out what's happening and making sure that everything would go well with the event. And one of the
Hmm.
push we were trying to do was to get Comic Con Cape Town named QuasiCon.
Ah. It should have been named QuasiCon. It should have been named QuasiCon.
Hey, there's
No, I
still
mean
time. There's still
that's
time.
yeah, yeah, most definitely, most definitely. All right. So, thank you so much, Clyde, for doing this with me again. This was a great show, in my opinion. We got some more stuff coming up. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Please go follow Clyde on all of his socials because we're gonna be updating when we're gonna be doing this. Please let us know in the comment section what you want us to talk about. If there's news in particular about anything that geek stuff worldwide, maybe in different countries, because I mean, this is the internet, so maybe you can introduce us to some new things that we can have a look at for Geek Mense to shoot this shit. And then also, if you got any local news, definitely South African local news, comic book wise. If you're working on something and you want us to shout it out, please let us know. I will be so happy to do that. I really want like geek culture, and I want to get to a point where we see what Captain America would look like if he was a Scotan. That's where
Yeah.
I want to get to.
Then go read Kwezi. Come on. Nah, thank you so much for having me, man. Um, always fun, always the best to have these chats like this. It gives me a cool outlet so that my geekdom can have somewhere to go. As we spoke about, the pandemic hasn't been great with keeping in touch. But I think what we must do is like some of these homies that we shouted out to, some of these homies we know have books because we know I know Mo has a book called The Guardian.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
maybe we can showcase it. Maybe we can get Mo or Warren or these guys on the line with us one day for a little bit and chat it out with them, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll see if I can organize it because, yeah, this has been so much fun. And with that being said, we will see you all next time because we have to be out. Okay, Meisterville? Peace.
Thanks so much, guys.